Hello and welcome to a scene from the Living World of Darkness Changeling venue. We join our scene already in progress. This is part two of the Nature of the Fae scene between Kagoma and Alexander Shaw. And as we left the group, I think Kagoma was telling Alexander that he should cut himself some slack. So that's where I'm just going to jump right in at. Um, so really, Alexander, cut yourself some slack. You just found out your true nature. You've been catapulted into this entirely different world in reality. Your paradigm is pretty much crumbled into like ashes. So it's going to be a slight adjustment period. So that's fine. That's fine. You just have to let me know what you need. I can't read minds. I can do a lot of stuff, but reading minds isn't one of them.
Really? Maybe I can do
Maybe.
that.
Think you'll be one of the only Fae that I would know of that would have that ability. I don't think it's a common ability to us, but it's possible. So what's up?
No, I'm just taking it all in.
Okay,
The scenery, that is.
right. So, as the two are kind of like walking, in the background is Xander's keep, and they're just walking, kind of patrolling the grounds like of the keep, which empty into the near dreaming. Um, it's a slightly more tame area of the dreaming since it's a near dreaming. Um, it isn't prone to the rapid changes farther out into the dreaming proper. Um, so there's a measure of stability that can be enjoyed here, while still enjoying like the wonder that is part of the dreaming, fantastical sights, rare beasts, stuff of that nature.
Wow. So, tell me, where where does all this come from?
Where does this? Well, you're going to have to be a little bit more specific when you mean that. Where does all this come from?
Us, uh, what we are.
Where we are. So I'm not an expert per se, but the dreaming, this force, um, this kind of extra dimension, kind of, as I've come to like explain it to myself, um, is kind of created by the collective um, imagination of humanity, basically. There's a unifying thread that connects a lot of things that exist and are real for us, and all of that, and most of those things are birthed from like mortal minds. There's definitely those of us that have flavors of particular cultures, like the Shi are definitely like herald from like a Celtic place. The Ishu, we definitely herald from a Middle Eastern place, an African place, an ancient place. There are those of our kind, the Red Caps, that herald from darker times of hunger. Um, there are those of our kind that are kind of like the Underfey that herald from like dark dreams and nightmares, like the Red Caps, like the Slua. Um, there are a lot of us, but all of us can trace our roots pretty much to like those mortal stories. That's where we come from.
So, let me see if I got this right. You're telling me that we come from different timelines along the evolution of humans,
Yes.
like the Middle Ages, uh, and uh,
Yep.
the Renaissance, like different imaginative times from those eras.
Exactly. If that helps you understand it, exactly. But it's not at all like that.
He holds his head.
No,
I thought I had it, but I don't.
no. If that helps you think about it, exactly like you said, um, I think that's a good starting point. See, what we're trying to establish here is a peg, one single peg for you to hang all the other knowledge that I give to you from. And if that's your peg, then let's start there. As you learn more, you have a year to learn all this stuff. As you learn more, your peg is gonna your peg is gonna grow into a shelf, into a bookcase, into a library. But we just need that starting point right now. So wherever you need to start.
You mean I have a year?
Basically, our kind. It's very, very kind of Grimm's Brothers fairy tale. Um, our times are important to us. Journeys are important to us. So the time for you to be recognized, the time that is conventional for our society to recognize someone who is newly awakened into what they are is a year and a day. Typically, the training time that you have with a mentor lasts for 1 year and 1 day. As you may recall, when we met the Queen, Queen Mab, she gave us a different timeline. She gave us a moon's time before you are going to be expected to swear fealty to the kingdom of apples. And that time's just about up. So, in order for her to, in good conscience, as the leader of the kingdom, um, to enter into an oath with you, she wanted you to understand what exactly it is that you're doing, because oaths to the Fae are binding things.
Uh, I think I understand.
Yeah. Um, we're we share a lot of aspects with mortals. We come from them, but there are certain things that are different from us and mortals. Oaths, if we promise something, an oath to us is ironclad. It's not something that we can break easily. Um,
So there's basically no lying.
well,
That's understanding.
there's definitely a difference between giving your word and giving an oath.
Oh, okay. Okay, I get you. I understand. All right.
Right. So, oath is something that we enter into typically with others of our kind, um, but not necessarily that. An oath is typically sanctified or empowered by the dream in this force. Um, it gives us strength to carry out that promise, but also if we break it, there are certain repercussions that we're going to be doomed to face. I, for example, am sworn to a house. Unlike most Cathane of my, unlike most Fae of my Kith, which are the issue, um, I have a title. So having that title, I swore allegiance to a she of House Fianna called whose name Lord Valerius. I swore an oath of fealty to him. So if I say were to like backstab him or betray him to another noble, um, in a hope for power or money or fame or something like that, due to the wording of my oath, I could technically be stricken blind by the dream in itself. So that's not to even account for any kind of social repercussions that I might face from other changelings like myself for being a liar, basically. Um, the dream in itself would basically say, "You suck. You're now blind. Get over it." Um, and there are definitely different quests that one can do to maybe prove themselves, or I don't know, kind of like wash the taint from them. But it's kind of a big deal with us.
Okay. I understand. So, what's the purpose of all this stuff?
What's the purpose of?
Well, I don't know, maybe it's the equivalent of asking yourself, what is the purpose of your life? But what is the purpose of us, the Fae? I mean, we must serve some purpose.
Hmm. What's the purpose of mankind?
Most men don't even know that.
No one can
It's
truly.
different.
No one, I feel, and I've seen a lot of places, met a lot of people, done a lot of things. I don't think people, I think it's rare that people do know their purpose. I think a lot of people might scratch the surface of their purpose. Um, but I think very few people know what's truly intended for them. I do believe in fate. I do believe that most of us do have a purpose. Um, I don't believe that all of our purposes here are necessarily as glamorous as we would like them to be. Um, but I do believe we all have purposes.
Well, then if it's true among mm, normal humans, then it's true among us that we should just find our own purpose in life. Then why do we swear fealty or loyalty to some queen? For what purpose?
Hmm. I think that purpose is less philosophical and more practical. Um, the purpose of the system of um, fealty is like I said, it's like a more practical purpose. We follow this kind of medieval paradigm because before kind of our everyday existence broke, because there has been some troubles that we've went through. Um, because as you know, everyone doesn't believe in magic anymore. Before everything kind of went, a lot of things started to go wrong with us. Um, that medieval, Jesus Christ, turn it off. Before everything kind of went wrong with us, that medieval period is a time where everything was still pretty much kosher. So I think that might be why our society kind of defaults to that. Even as we move forward in time as like people, as souls, we learn different things. We master this thing called democracy. It spreads across the world like wildfire in most places. We still kind of revert back to that medieval paradigm because before the dreaming was stretched to the breaking points and our magical places started shutting down and the fae started leaving the earth, before that time, that's the kind of format that we existed in. That's the format that I think we were the strongest. So I think somehow it left a scar on the dreaming, and it hasn't been able to move on. That force hasn't been able to evolve as it should, unfortunately, because humans stopped believing in us.
Well, then why don't we share ourselves and make them believe again?
Why? What's your question?
Then why don't we make them believe?
How would you
Why
make
do
them
we
believe?
not? Why do we not share ourselves?
What do you think that would accomplish? Do you think we could make them believe again, Xander? Or do you think
I
it'd be more, or do you think it'd be more likely that we would end up on an autopsy table?
good point.
Oh, it's a question. I wasn't trying to make a point.
No, I mean it is a good point though. Even though it's just a question. I think there are those who would want to believe.
Right. And I think the issue is that we need more than those, because there are a few who do believe in us. There are a few that do know of us and keep the old ways. So there are those that exist, but humanity as a whole, this world has become dark. There's
Tell
not
me about it.
there's not a lot of room for us in the world, and for us to make such an impact where humanity would stop relying on science and medicine and go back to believing in little folk, I think would be a pretty big jump at this point. Not that it wouldn't be impossible by any means, but
There would be ways of, uh, if mankind were, say, to lose the ability to create electricity. um, Pretty sure we would become very common again.
true, true. Modern disaster has threatened mankind plenty of times. It's kind of in these times of fear that mortals kind of do rely back on those old stories. There's a comfort that humans get from those stories. Probably it's that comfort about, probably that comfort comes from thinking about us. But it would take something really big, probably disastrous, for us to get back to where we would like to be. But do we want to go backwards or do we want to go forward? Should we be evolving or should mankind be evolving? There's a lot of questions. It's a very philosophical conversation. Um,
And why can't we evolve also?
exactly my point. Why? Yeah,
Evolving.
I think the question is might be that
Hmm.
why are we stuck? Not why don't humans still feel the way they did 600 years ago?
And
That's a ridiculous
you are
proposition.
very correct.
And we're just waxing philosophical here. But some things to think about. You have been reborn into one of the ruling class of the Kithane. You're a she, so it's going to serve you well if you keep your mind sharp and agile. Um, these debates are things that happen.
Interesting.
So, speaking of the medieval paradigm, you're familiar with the concept of commoners and nobles,
Yes, I am.
and
Second class citizenship.
and
And I think it absolutely sucks.
okay, um, because we Cathane us. Not all the dream beings believe in this kind of medieval paradigm, but because we kind of default to it, the Cathane do. Um, all she, which are you, the big ear bastards, all of you guys, all of you guys are considered nobles. Everyone who is not you is considered commoners.
So you are a commoner.
No,
Okay.
as I as I as I said, one of the things that different about me is that I have a title. So, had I not gotten a title by swearing fealty to Lord Valerius, I would be considered a commoner as well.
Ah, okay. So why am I a noble?
Just because you are she.
Birthright. Yeah.
Well, nublis obligé. Divine. Well, yeah. another subject in which you might want to become versed in. It's bound to come up because some she feel very passionate about their divine right to rule. Um,
Huh.
there is the reason I bring this up. The reason I bring this up is that I discuss your training with Lord Valerius and with Lady Alana. Valerius is very excited about meeting you, and Alana is very excited about meeting you as well. Both of them are she, and they were raised in a very conventional way. So before they surprise you with this idea of noble and commoner and divine right and other stuff, I just wanted to prepare you for it because you're going to want to be ready with your own opinion. And it might not be the best case scenario for you to be developing an opinion within 3 seconds of finding out that this weird medieval paradigm exists. So just think about it. You don't have to like be a sworn protector of all commoner rights. Um, you're so young. Well, you're so fresh into being who you are that you don't even have to have an opinion. Um, but just think about it. That's all I want. That's all I ask. Just think about it.
Okay, I will save my summary judgment.
Yeah, it's better to react strongly when you have all the cards in front of you, but sometimes we don't have all the cards in front of us, and we need to just react. So I don't know. I was pretty upset by this whole idea when my mentor went over it myself.
Okay. Okay. So, how about more of this magic stuff? I'll get off the seriousness for a moment.
Okay. So you were able to make yourself go faster.
Yeah,
Um,
that was pretty fun, actually.
you should also be able to. You might be also able to jump really high. That's another level of your art. It's called hopscotch. And
Seriously?
if you're able if you're able to move quickly, which is called quicksilver, then you should be able to do hopscotch. So I want to show you how disbelief can kind of negate our powers. It's kind of a
Okay.
serious deal because if one of us disbelieves magic, that's it's basically killing magic, which is kind of anathema to what we are. Um, we carry that weight with us for a while. So I'm going to show you once just to show that it is possible and how I'm able to call on those energies to ground myself against fey magic. But this is probably the first and only time I want to show this to you.
Okay.
Okay. So
Okay.
Kagoma pulls out his sword. It's still within his sheath. He said, "This is Sagacious Sorrow. It's a sword. It's been crafted by a knocker that's been dead for about 30 years now. I want you to I want you to try and use your arts to make it jump from my hand."
Okay. To make it jump from your. Okay. All
Okay.
right.
So mechanically, it's the same roll. Well, the same like system. You'll still use Wayfair. And even though you're using level 1 of the art, you'll still want to use the 2 die because it's your total mastery of the art. And then do you have the prop realm? I do believe you do.
Yes, so that would give me 3.
Okay. So you will want to roll those 3 die. All right. So you roll your 3 die and come up with an admirable 10, 9, and a 2. So the 2 doesn't beat my banality rating, but the 9 and the 10 definitely do. But what Kagoma has done, he has rolled his banality to kind of oppose your art. So the successes that Kagoma has rolled is a 10, a 7, a 7, and a 9. So he has more successes. So your art doesn't, in fact, take place. There's maybe a fizzle or maybe a quicksilver sheen that flashes over his sword for a moment, but nothing happens. And then Kagoma kind of closes his eyes. Okay.
Okay. Nothing happened.
He puts his sword away.
What?
That sucked more than I thought it would.
Well, what happened? Nothing happened.
So, like I said, disbelief is kind of the polar opposite of the magic that we're able to weave into existence. So, by grounding myself and focusing very intently on very concrete, very mortal principles, I can technically deny that magic from being weaved into the world, particularly when it's something that's affected me or something that's in my direct possession. And that's what I did. I think technically my sword would have at least bounced 30 feet in the air. But I was basically able to snuff out your magic. But doing that definitely opens my soul up to that same disbelief. So I think I'm going to need a minute. Do you mind if we start walking back to the freehold?
Sure.
This isn't a technique that I recommend using lightly. But in certain circumstances, it can mean life or death. Now, you can't stop a real sword from chopping your face off. So don't try and disbelieve a sword. But if you know art is coming, you can definitely, if there's nothing else you can do, you can definitely try your luck. I'm different than a lot of the changelings you might meet, in that I'm a grump. So that just means I discovered who I was later in life. So that means I'm more connected with the human world. I have more of their beliefs and concepts that are harder for me to shake off than changelings who might have come into their own understandings earlier in life as kids or as teenagers, for example. You, because of your house and because Liam definitely kind of were protectors of humanity, have a little bit of more of that disbelief. That banality is what we call it. You have more of that air about you as well. So it is a double-edged sword. You can, in extreme circumstances, make it work for you.
Okay. It seems to really change the mood. That's for sure. Are you okay?
It doing that isn't really a good thing for us, but it beats being dead. So um,
Yeah, yeah, I would agree. I would agree.
it sucks, but to counterbalance banality, sometimes we can um, channel glamour. So once I get back to the freehold, I should be fine.
Okay. Glamour. Still not really understanding the concept of that.
Oh, come on. We discussed this already. So,
Yes, I know.
what?
I understand that, but still.
Yeah, it's not going to be scientific, Xander.
Yeah.
Stop trying to write it down in a book. Just
Hmm.
wonder, magic, glamour. Be done. The more you try and quantify it, the less you're going to understand it. Trust me.
Okay.
All right.
It's kind of hard, you know. I can tell you every property of a movement of the human body because I can understand that.
Yeah.
Ah, perhaps I'm just overthinking.
Well, there's overthinking and there's overthinking, right? So we are creatures of we're creatures of dual natures. So one foot in the gray world, which is the autumn world, which is the current age we live in, and we have one foot in a world that is a lot more fantastical. So there's advantages and disadvantages of having one foot in one world and another foot in another. So definitely it behooves you to understand how the gray world works. But similarly, it behooves you to understand how the dreaming works.
Is there a manual somewhere?
Is there a
A manual.
Actually, there is.
Really?
Yep.
Hmm.
Up for making a trip?
Yeah, sure.
Um, have you ever been to an affinity library?
Yeah, just last weekend I think I was there. No, I've never been to the library. How do you know what that is?
Actually, in the barony that Larry is charged with maintaining, the barony is called Kretschny. And in it, I think there is an infinity library. There's also a very sizable library in Tar, which is kind of like our Washington D.C.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I think we should try Valerius's library first because he's been dying to meet you. So maybe when we're there, searching books and stuff, we'll stumble into him.
Cool.
Cool. Okay. Let's go back to the keep. Let's get your stuff. Let's lock the place down, and then let's go the dreaming way. Let's take the silver path, and we can find our way from here instead of going through the gray world. Wait,
Cool.
yeah. I was thinking there's some Edheen out there, but yeah, we'll figure it out.
Edheen?
Yeah, they're older dreams. Old dreams. So going back to the freehold, and while Xander is getting his stuff packed, Kagoma will tell Xander about these older dreams, these Edheen, because he's been studying them, and of course he knows the stories because he's an issue. The Heen are older dreams. Long ago, the progenitors of the Fae, the Tuatha De Danann, they fought this dark force, this Elder Dark, and the Fomorians. And some of the foot soldiers of this Elder Dark and Fomorians were the Edheen. So originally, in the time before time, the Edheen and the Kithane, or what are now Kithane, were enemies. And now, as Kagoma tells Xander, there aren't. They've kind of entered into a fragile peace. Because about 4 months ago, the Heen came en masse from the deep dreaming to the Kingdom of Apples. They were fleeing some dark force that basically chased them out of their what had been their home for thousands and thousands of years. And it was an uncomfortable prospect, but after going to war with these people, these older dreams, both people were able to settle upon a peace, but it's been heartfelt. Kagoma doesn't go into the whole story. He definitely glosses over a couple of things, particularly how the war ended. And if pushed on the subject, he kind of will let Xander know that's something that they can talk about later, a lot later. So once Xander has gathered up his stuff,
So Xander is thinking, okay, back in the land of Mordor, there was this two fractions. They were fighting each other. Now this is what he's thinking. They are fighting each other, and they became some kind of peace treaty. And then as time moved on, and the evil forces came back running from some other evil force. And we are what we are today, coming across these ancient creatures and like going, oh, what the fuck? Okay, and so now something's brewing that we don't know of. All right.
there's always something brewing that we really don't know of.
So yeah, that's what Xander's thinking. So if he got that story totally wrong, that's what he's thinking.
I'm going to be fired.
I'm gonna be fired. Yeah, he might be.
So, you ready?
But that's yes. Yes. I'll pack all my things. Make sure I got my swords, whatnot.
Okay. Now, what is? Oh nope, I know it's 4. Kagoma takes off running, and you have magically 4 extra actions. What do you do?
Run.
Okay.
I'm not just going to stand here.
All right. He gave you a head start. So with that, the two will take off, leaving Xander's freehold. They will enter onto the silver path not far from Xander's freehold, and then from there travel to the barony of Kresny. It's a bit of a winding journey through the dreaming, but it gives Kagome an opportunity to go back over the stories about the Aheen and the progenitors of the Fae, and the current situation of the Kingdom of Apples. Um, he goes over that very loosely though, because that isn't really something that before when he was when he was younger, it's not really something that training really focused on. Um, but he's going over it loosely because it's not really something he wants Xander to focus on. There are definitely some principles that Xander needs to get down before he concentrates on the politics of the kingdom. Um, Getting down like cantrips, um, banality, what's the autumn world, things like that. He wants to get Xander to understand first, glamour, and then he'll go into like explaining what's the difference between a Seelie and an unseelie changeling. So there's a lot Xander still has to learn. So he's not really too concerned that he doesn't understand like the war with the Heed yet, because there's definitely a lot that the two have to cover before um, their meeting with Queen Mab. Any parting thoughts?
Yes. This is going to be a lot of fun.
All right. With that, thanks everybody for watching. Have a good night.